Welcome back to the Kramer Show. So, if you watched the Kramer Show before, you know I usually bring in dealer guests to talk about what's really happening in stores. Today, I'm flying solo, but this episode is still very much about dealer voices. Cars Commerce recently wrapped a dealer survey asking a simple question: what are your biggest pain points going into 2026? Not predictions, not buzzwords, just what's actually making your job harder. We heard from 144 dealers in December, and I want to walk you through what they told us. And more importantly, what I'm seeing the best operators do in response. Because here's the thing: none of these challenges are brand new. 2026, they're stacking on top of each other. Here's what stood out to me. Immediately, the dealers they're not asking for more technology. They're asking for better data. They're asking for cleaner processes, and they're asking for fewer gaps between systems in their tech stack. The top pain points coming out of this study were differentiating your dealership, acquiring used inventory at a profitable margin, obviously, lead quality and ROI, how and whether AI actually helps, and managing transparency without blowing up deals. That tells me we're not dealing with a single problem. We're dealing with friction across the entire funnel. So let's start where most of the friction begins. Pain point number one: used car acquisition and margin pressure. My favorite. Let's start with used cars because that's where the pressure is the highest right now. And it happens to be one of my favorite topics. Almost 3/4 of dealers, 74%, say it's harder to acquire used vehicles at a profitable margin compared to last year. And what stood out to me? No one said it's easier. Digging deeper, 54% say pricing competition is the biggest constraint. 28% say acquisition cost is what pressures margins the most. 25% point to local competition. But it's not about the lack of inventory, it's about the lack of certainty. The dealers struggling the most are chasing cars at the auction. The dealers that are doing better are targeting cars from consumers. The best operators I see are saying, what can I buy today? How many can I buy today? They're asking, what will they sell for? At what margin? How fast? The mindset shift matters because when the acquisition gets tighter, mistakes get more expensive. This also explains why 94% of dealers say trade accuracy is the most important, yet only 76% feel confident in those valuations. The gap, well, that's where margin disappears when you're confident. The dealers that are protecting gross are leaning on more accurate trade data, inventory management signals, wholesale alternatives when the retail sourcing dries up. The goal isn't volume, it's confidence and speed to decision, which will ultimately lead to volume and margin. Pain point number two: lead quality and ROI confusion. Now let's talk marketing because this one is just blunt. 31% of dealers say low quality lead sources are the biggest thing limiting sales. Another 26% say measuring ROI across media is the issue. Translation: dealers aren't short on leads, they're short on getting good leads. And I think we'd all agree on that. If your time is spent chasing shoppers that aren't in the market, it's not a volume problem, it's a targeting problem. The best performing stores are doing things better. They're prioritizing intent over form fills. They're paying attention to shopper behavior, not just clicks. They're connecting marketing spend to real outcomes. Good leads don't start with a form, they start with intent. And when marketing, website experience, inventory aren't aligned, the shopper feels it immediately, even if they can't explain why. Pain point number three: AI interest is high, patience is low. This might be the most misunderstood part of the entire study. Dealers are not anti AI. In fact, 34% say conversational AI for after hours leads would help most day to day. 38% say AI would have the biggest impact on lead handling and follow up. But when asked what's holding them back, the answers are clear: lack of proven ROI, data accuracy concerns, and cost. In other words, dealers don't want experiments, they want results. AI works when it saves time immediately, when it reduces missed opportunities, when it helps teams prioritize the right shoppers, and it doesn't overcomplicate the process. It fails when it creates more work, it feels disconnected from reality, or it gets in the way of human interaction. The best use of AI right now isn't replacing people, it's supporting them and enabling them. After hours responses, smarter lead routing, website guidance, lead prioritization. And if AI doesn't make your team's day easier on day one, it won't get used and it shouldn't. Now we're on to pain point number four, where dealers are losing customers. One of the most actionable findings in this study is where dealers say the shoppers are falling out of the funnel. The biggest drop off happens at lead to appointment conversion, 36%. followed by VDP to lead conversion, 24%, appointments shown to sale, 24%. And most deals aren't being lost at the desk. They're being lost way earlier when shoppers are still trying to figure things out. What I see over and over is this disconnect. The dealers are responding to leads, but they don't always understand what the shopper actually cares about, how far along they really are in the funnel, in the purchase process. So, this is where the shopper insights from cars.com, specifically tools like our AI tool, Carson, make a difference. Cars.com gives dealers visibility into how they're behaving before they even raise their hand, what vehicles they're viewing, what filters and comparisons they're using, what price points and features they're reacting to. And that context matters because a shopper looking for a reliable SUV under 30 grand does not deserve the same follow up as somebody's looking at three trims of the same model. And that's exactly what Carson's designed to unlock. It lets shoppers search the way that they want to, natural language, signals, and intent. And instead of guessing who submitted the lead, your team has better insight into the problem the shopper is actually trying to solve. So when you pair those insights up with the follow up process, the lead responses become more relevant. The conversations start in the right place, and it's easier to move shoppers from lead to appointment. The dealers tightening up that part of the funnel aren't necessarily responding faster, they're responding smarter. And when dealers feel understood early, fewer of them disappear before ever stepping into the store. Now, let's close it out with pain point number 5: pricing transparency and digital retailing. My old favorite from in my former life in retail. And it's not going away. It's not a lead gen tool. 66% of dealers say managing pricing transparency online is challenging or very challenging. And I would agree with that. But the biggest friction points: reconditioning and market adjustment clarity, advertised versus actual price, trade value disagreements. What I found encouraging is this: 60% of dealers feel positive about stricter transparency standards. 3 and 4 say they're mostly or very prepared. That tells me that dealers aren't afraid of transparency. They're afraid of confusion. The dealers winning here aren't hiding numbers, they're explaining them and they're leading with them from the front. Why prices are what they are, why trade values are determined, what changes from online to in store, and why. Transparency isn't the problem, inconsistency is the problem. When pricing, trade values, and payment expectations don't line up, deals fall apart late, everybody loses. One final point that doesn't get enough airtime: 80% of dealers say data safety and website security is either very or extremely important when choosing their vendor partners. As dealers rely more on connected systems, trust matters more now than ever. Fewer vendors, cleaner data, shared standards. When inventory, marketing, pricing, follow up live in separate silos, the risk goes up, it doesn't go down. So, in closing, what should dealers focus on in 2026? Here's my biggest takeaways from the study. The dealers who win in 2026 will be the ones that won't be the ones with the most tools. It will be the ones that have clear acquisition strategies, they have better lead quality, all AI applied where it actually saves time and it's not just a sticker on the outside of a product. Fewer handoff breakdowns, transparency used as a strength, not a liability. The study wasn't just about predicting the future, it's about listening to dealers, and the message was consistent: fix the friction, and all these problems shrink. Thanks for spending time with me on the Kramer Show. I'll be at NADA all week long. I hope you stop by the Cars Commerce booth. I've got to tell everybody that is watching these dealer pain points that in 2026, trust for the first time is going to overtake price when it comes to vehicle online merchandising, your SEO, your AEO, and your GEO strategies. So we're going to be talking about all that and more. So if you want to know more about AI search, you want to know more about what's changing with used vehicle merchandising in order to make sure that your acquisition strategy is the strongest that there is, please make sure you stop by the booth. I would love to see all of you there. We're going to be at the Cars Commerce booth, NADA 2026. Can't wait to see you all there.